Hi, my name is Dakota Moore. I'm with the Kentucky Horticulture Council. We're here with Marissa Christie from the Kentucky Center for Agriculture and Rural Development, and David Mathis, insurance agent with the Shelby Insurance Agency in Shelbyville. Today we'll be discussing 5 questions you should ask your insurance agents. And I'll turn it over to Marissa and David.
All right, Dakota, thank you. It's always great to get to ask people questions about crop insurance because a lot of people in Kentucky and the Mid-South don't have an idea of what they're eligible for. So, David, thank you for agreeing to join us today.
Glad to be here.
The first question, and I have to say thank you to David because he's actually kind of always kept up with me and helped keep me informed on these things. So with that in mind, here's the first question. What is the deadline to apply for crop insurance in my location?
Well, for most people in Kentucky, the deadline will be March the 15th. If somebody wants the whole farm revenue policy and is a late fiscal year filer, then the deadline on that is November the 20th. So that deadline is fast approaching. But for most people, it's going to be March the 15th. This would not only include the whole farm revenue, but also the spring crops such as corn, soybeans, and tobacco.
So if I'm just now thinking about getting insurance, and I know I need to get things together by March 15th, what do I do if I don't have, if my records are incomplete? What can I do for coverage?
Well, if you've got some records, you may be able to use the other combined direct marketing code, which allows you to throw the commodities that you're growing and have grown together. And we would need to know the acreage that you've had in the past few years on that. That's usually determined by the Farm Service Agency's FSA 576 form. That one other thing I need to mention about the Farm Service Agency, in order to get the discounts on the whole farm revenue policy, you need to be in compliance with the NCRS guidelines, and there's a form, an AD 1026, that should be on file at the local Farm Service Agency. If you're not in compliance and don't get in compliance with that, then a farmer paid premium of $2,000 might turn into $10,000 real quick. They don't want that.
That's actually that's an agriculture water quality plan is the form, if I remember correctly, right?
Yes, most of the people have already filed that, especially the ones who've grown grain crops or tobacco in the past. But I've run into some who have not been in compliance. Sometimes that will happen when you've been farming as an individual, or a wife and husband been farming together, and then suddenly they are, maybe not suddenly, but they change to an LLC or corporation or something like that. If that's been done, they need to update their records at Farm Service so that the AD 1026 shows who's operating the farm.
Okay. So one of the questions that if you're looking for whole farm revenue, you think we should ask is, ask the agent, have they sold whole farm revenue before? So why is that?
Well, it's a very complex policy. We've sold a handful, and it has a lot of moving parts. It requires not only tax records, but it also you need to have some production records, revenue and yields, and it's I won't say convoluted might be a good word to use. It is a very complex policy, a lot of moving parts. You think you have it pinned down, and there's always something else that rises up that you need to address. Some agents don't like the whole farm. It takes them out of what they're normally doing. The best thing to do is ask them if they're comfortable with the whole farm policy. And if they're not, maybe they can recommend an agent who would be comfortable with it.
The next one, you talked about premiums a little bit and subsidies. So we know that these many of these policies are covered by a federal subsidy. So when is the farmer billed a premium?
Farmers usually bill the premium August the 15th or thereabouts. Sometimes the paperwork isn't all entered into the computer system, and maybe a few days after that, but it's usually August the 15th, with the premium being due on or before October the 1st. If you're after that date, then they start adding interest. If there is a claim pending on your policy, the premium still needs to be paid, because if you're waiting for the indemnity payment to cover the premium, that won't work. You'll probably be on the ineligible list before.
So what you're saying is, and this is interesting, just following the timeline, like if I'm getting a whole farm revenue policy in Kentucky, I probably need to have my policy in place by March 15th. I won't get a bill till sometime in August.
That's right.
But you could have a claim in July.
You could have a claim in July, but remember this, other than for a replant, and there is replant coverage under the whole farm for annual crops, except for hemp. But other than that, you're gonna need to file your income taxes for the following year for this current year in order for the insurance company to determine the claim. Now, there's some other things that are going to be involved too. They'll need to look at accounts receivable and also accounts payable, and the what the inventory is on hand at the start of the or at the end of the fiscal year,
Okay.
which is going to be the calendar year for most people.
So even if it's not whole farm, you said one of the questions that we have that people should ask is, do you feel comfortable with what I'm looking for or working with the policy that I'm asking about?
Yes, the agent needs to feel comfortable with that.
Yeah, we actually asked you about a type of insurance earlier, and you're like, yeah, I haven't done those in many years, so I wouldn't be the best agent. So
right. We've done a few whole farm. The whole farm policy, for some reason, there's hasn't been a lot of them sold in Kentucky. I think once the farmers get familiar with it, and once the farm lenders get familiar with it, we'll see more of it sold.
Yeah, because I've worked with a couple of different farmers that got it, and you're looking at a few $100s a year to insure, depending on the crop, tens of thousands of dollars, depending on the coverage level and the crops. So
yes, and the more commodities you have, the lower the premium generally.
Yeah, so you could have pumpkin, corn, cattle, and hay together.
Yes, and if they're all of economic significance, and there's a formula we use to determine that, you can get as high as 85% of your revenue guaranteed, your historical revenue.
That's
and we can
impressive.
index, there's ways of indexing the premiums, or the revenue rather, and that can help quite a bit. And we have ways of smoothing the revenue if you've had a really bad year, or if perhaps you were ill one year and couldn't farm. We have ways of working around that. We use 5 years of your most recent income tax returns. We don't use the current year. That's what we call the lag year. And if you're a beginning farmer or rancher, or a veteran farmer and rancher and qualify for those programs, we can get by with 3 years, as long as you filed have farmed in the last year, which would be this year for the 2022 crop year.
Wow, so that does take the record burning down, especially for the beginning farmers. All right, David, I think that's all of our questions today. We actually are going to have a document with some other questions. I think there's about 15 total that Dakota and David have put together for us. I just want to say thank you, David, for sharing your time, Dakota for helping get us together. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the Kentucky Horticulture Council or the Kentucky Center for Ag and Rural Development, or KCARD. And if you're interested in whole farm, feel free to reach out to an agent who's familiar with it. Anyway, thank you all and have a good day.
Thank you.